Welcome to Module 10. This is going to be part 1. We are going to talk about the surface area of solids. Okay, so there's a lot of vocab. We first want to talk about a polyhedron. A polyhedron is a solid that is bounded by polygons that encloses a single region of space. So if you look at this chart down here, polyhedra is just a multiple, is prisms and pyramids. It has straight lines. Not polyhedra are cylinder, cone, and sphere because they have rounded edges. They don't have polygons, they have circles and other random shapes. Face is the polygons. An edge is going to be this line right here. It's going to be a line segment. The vertex is the points where 3 or more edges are going to combine. And then the base. The base is what's used to name the polyhedron, and we're going to be talking more about that for volume. But base is parallel and congruent. So in this case, the two polygons that are congruent and parallel are trapezoids. So this shape is going to be called trapezoidal, and this is a prism because it has two bases. Pyramids come to a point and only have one base. Prisms have two bases. So that's what this talks about. Prisms have two bases, one base for a pyramid. They all come to a point. Okay? So this is a pentagonal prisms because the bases are pentagons. This is a triangular pyramid because the base is a triangle. Surface area of a polyhedron is the sum of the areas of its faces. So prisms, all we're doing is writing down all the shapes and adding them all up. So how I teach it, and I think it's what helps you organize all your information, is I'm going to make a chart. So I have a chart. Oops. And I'm going to make a couple different columns. The first one is a shape. The next one is formula. The next one is number. And the last one is total. So we look at our shapes and we try to figure out what shapes we have. You probably see a rectangle. And there's going to be several different rectangles, but the first one is a rectangle here, and it's going to be, let's do the bottom and the top of our shape. So this is going to be a 10 by 4. This side is 4. This is also 4. And this long side is 10. So, how many of those do I have? Well, it's top and bottom, so that's 2. So formula, rectangles are base times height. So I get 40. And there's 2 of them, so I'm going to multiply by 2 to get 80 is my total for that shape. Now, let's look at the ones on the ends. So this right here would be a rectangle that's 5 by 4. And there's 2 ends, so that would be 2 of them. 5 times 4 is 20. Times 2 would be 40. And my last one is going to be this front part and the back part. And you can't really tell here. See, if I do that, you can't really tell. So I'll try to highlight this. This is going to be my rectangle. It's going to be a 10 by 5. So it would be 10 times 5, which is 50, and front and back, which is 2, so I get 100. Now, just to make sure, if you count up all the faces of this rectangular prism, I should get 6. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6. So just to make sure, I would count up all my faces to make sure that the number column matches the number of faces. So now when I'm finding my surface area, all you're going to do is add up all of those total column. So my surface area is going to be 220 feet squared. And we're done. Alright, we're going to do one more prism. And this is going to be an octagonal prism. So, I'm going to fill in my chart. So shape, formula, number, and total. So now my first shape you probably see is an octagon. And how I draw octagons is I do those 4 and then I connect them. And then my other one is going to be a rectangle. So let's talk about the octagon first. I see 2.7 and 4. And if you remember from chapter 11, we talked about regular polygons. This is going to be, we're going to split it up into triangles. There's 8 triangles, and the formula for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. Well, my base of that triangle is my side, which is 4, and the height of my triangle is my apothem, which is my 2.7. So if you punch all of that in your calculator, 8 times 0.5 times 4 times 2.7, I get 43.2. And I see a top and a bottom, so I multiply it by 2 and I get 86.4. That is the area of the octagons, and now I need the rectangles. If we look at the figure, you see the rectangle is 4 by 6.2. And if I count how all around on the outside, I should get 8. There's 8 sides of the rectangle, so that means there's 8 rectangles. So rectangle, base times height, 4 times 6.2, and I get 24.8, and then I multiply that by 8, and I get 198.4. And then to find my total surface area, I'm going to add those two numbers up. So my surface area is 284.8, and then it's units squared. So that is prisms. You have to find all your parts and then add them all up. The rest of our figures are going to be pretty similar to this. They're just going to be a little different. So pyramids, you are going to have triangles and the base. So you only have 2 shapes. Triangles and whatever the base is. It will always be a regular pyramid. We're not going to do any irregular ones, so all the sides on the bottom are going to be the same. So all the triangles will be congruent. This right here is going to be the height of our figure, and this is your slant height. What we are going to be using for surface area is the slant height because it's on the surface. The height is in the middle of the figure, and we're going to use that for volume, but we need the slant height. Alright, so for this one, we are going to still do our chart, shape, formula, number, and total. But now remember, we're only doing two different shapes. So our first one is, so it's 90 by 90, okay? So that's 90 by 90. A rectangle is base times height, and I get 8100. And there's only one base, so it's 8100. Now, the trickier part is going to be the triangle. So here's my triangle. If you see though, 97 is your height. I want my slant height. Okay, so this is my x that I need to find. So actually, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this and this. Now, if I connect those two, what kind of triangle is that? If you see it, there's a right angle here. So that means it's a right triangle. And if you see the bottom, the whole side is 90. So if I want half of that, it's going to be 45. So 45, 97, and x. Well, now I can do a Pythagorean theorem. 97 squared plus 45 squared equals my x squared. So I get x squared equals 11,434, and then I take the square root of that, and I get 106.930. So that is going to be my height, is 106.93, and my base, remember, is still 90. That is the whole side length. So now, triangle, 1/2 base times my height. So I get 4811.85, and I have 4 of them. So my total is 19,247.4. So now, to find my surface area, I add up the two. And I have my answer. So, sometimes you're going to have to do Pythagorean theorem or trig, but sometimes I'm going to give you everything. You just have to find your slant height, and that's the most important part. Alright, there's one more. I want you to do this one. See if you can write down your two shapes. Remember, it's a pyramid, so we only have two shapes. Draw in your chart and see if you can find the surface area. Alright, so here is your answer, 1600. We have one 20 by 20 square, which is 400, and then we have each triangle is 1/2 30 by 20. Your height is 30, so we didn't need to do Pythagorean theorem in this case. because you already have your slant height. So it was just 300 times 4 is 1200, so our total is 1600. All right, a cylinder is a little bit different. If you are confused about a cylinder, there is a link on the next slide that shows you a little video of how it unravels. So if you take a piece of paper and you roll it up, it's going to be a cylinder. So when you unravel it, this middle part here, the one all the way around, is going to be a rectangle. And if you unravel it, that rectangle, this all the way around becomes this piece. So that is going to be, all the way around is 2 pi r. That's going to be your circumference. And then your height, is your h. So it's just going to be 2 pi r times h, and then we have two circles. So cylinders also have two shapes. Formula, number and total. Shape, we have a circle. Oh, I want a different color. And then I have a rectangle. And I have two circles, and I have one rectangle. In my circle, I see I have a radius of 4, so area of a circle is pi 4 squared. So I get 50.265, times it by 2, get 100.531. Now, remember, if I unravel all the way around, I get 2 pi r. R is 4, and then my height is 5. So 2 pi 4 times 5, base times height, is a rectangle. So I get 125.664. And there's only one of them. There we go. So now my surface area, I add them up. So 226.195 meters squared is my total surface area. So cylinders have a circle and a rectangle. Cones are a little different. This is what we call the slant height. Just like a pyramid has a slant height, cones have a slant height. This is your height. Okay? And don't worry about these other ones. This is slant height. We call that L. Now this next section here is the proof of the surface area. So of how I found pi RL is the Pac-Man type shape is what I'm calling it. So if you have a Pac-Man type shape and if you put it together, it's going to be a cone. If you undo it, it's going to be a Pac-Man. So your surface area of that Pac-Man is pi RL. That's something you have to memorize, and then you have a circle. So those are the two shapes there, and if you want to go over the proof, you can. So if I have two shapes again, so I have a circle and I have a Pac-Man. My circle is on the bottom. It has a radius of 3, so pi 3 squared. is 28.274. Oh, that changed colors. 274. And then I remember I need my slant height, and I don't have it. So that's my L. In order to find it, I do Pythagorean theorem. 5 squared plus 3 squared equals my L squared. So I have 5 squared plus 3 squared gives me 34. So I do the square root of 34. And my L is 5.831. So pi r L is my formula. Pi 3 is my radius. And 5.831 is my L. There's only one of them. So pi times 3 times 5.831. I get 54.956. And that is your cone. So now I add them up. 0.274 plus 83.23 meters squared. And there you go. So that is cone. We have one more shape left, and it is a sphere. So if I unravel a baseball, you see here, pretty much, if I got rid of all the overlapping material, I'm going to see 4 circles. Well, that is the formula. 4 pi r squared. That's it. That's the surface area of a sphere. So this one's super easy. So you don't even need the chart. So my surface area is 4 times pi times 7 squared. So I have 4 pi times 7 squared. I get 615.752 centimeters squared. So now this one, it just says the surface area is this. Find the diameter. So your surface area is 110.25 equals 4 pi r squared. Divide by 4 pi. Now when you put 4 pi in your calculator, you're going to need to put parentheses around it. You want to divide 110 by 4 pi together. Not 4 and then multiply everything by 5. So you should get r squared equals 8.773, and then I square root to get 2.962. But now it asks for the diameter. Diameter, so the radius is half of it, diameter is the whole thing. So diameter is 2 times 2.962. So my diameter would be 5.924 feet. And that is it. So we didn't do a ton of practice, but we got at least one or a couple on each shape. So now you have some practice to do, and there's a couple links, and then there's a couple quizzes. Good luck.